I hope you guys are ready for a massive book unhaul. I have so many books that I need to get through, so let's rapid fire them. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, like I said, we're going to be doing my last big book unhaul of the year. I am just going to rapid fire these. I'm not going to describe what they are or why I'm unhauling them. But before we get into it, make sure that you grab your drink because this is going to be a little bit of a lengthy video. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out. Always check my description box below for all of my socials, my Pango Books account, which all of these will be on there. Will they be still there whenever you go there? I don't know. You probably want to follow me on there so you know when I'm uploading these books. Enough with that. Let's get into the books. First, we're going to address the elephant in the room. I am still wearing my same sweater from the last several videos that I have filmed. This is an entirely different day, an entirely different week. But I really love this sweater. It says booked and it says please don't call, and I absolutely love it. I think I got it from probably Smut or maybe Midnight Whispers. I think it was one of those platforms. So if you want to check out the sweaters, it's nice, it's big, it's cozy. Clearly one of my favorites because I'm in it in every video lately. Alright, so the reason why I am unhauling these books is I went through all of my shelves and I took down all the books that either I have read and I don't intend to keep because they were 2 or 3 star books. I also am unhauling books that my husband never read, or books that don't even intrigue me anymore. And then there are quite a lot of books in here that I have duplicate copies of, and they're just taking up way too much space on my shelves. So those are all of the reasons why I am getting rid of them. But probably most of all, I've outgrown some of these books. They don't catch my interest. I don't want to read them. So why put them on my shelves where they just sit and sit for years and I'm just never getting to those. But 2025, I am going to rectify that. So video coming soon on my plans, how to rectify my massive TBR and actually have books that I want to read. First up, we have Nectar of the Wicked by Ella Fields. This is the Fairy Loot Romantasy edition. It's gonna go bye-bye. I also just recently got this book, but it's probably Smut, and it is Pack Darling by Lola Rock, the complete duology. I'm not a Wolf Shifter romance reader, and I also have never read Omegaverse, nor do I want to. But I could be swayed. Leave me comments down below if there's any Omegaverse that maybe I should dip my little toes into. I'm always willing to try. I'm also getting rid of Arcane Society's Flames of Chaos and Ashes of Chaos by Amelia Hutchins. Read the first book. Don't want to continue, but they are stunning editions and they just need to go to someone who will love them. I'm also getting rid of Threaded by Tay Rose. This is the probably Smut edition, which is signed, but I have multiple copies of this, so I got rid of the one that was least appealing to me. I know that I recently just got these a couple months ago, but I read the first book and it is not for me. Not at all. So you can definitely go watch my November wrap up if you want my thoughts on it, but it is To Bleed a Crystal Bloom trilogy. This is the hardcover versions that I got from Amazon. They are special edition covers, I believe. So you have To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, To Snap a Silver Stem, and then To Flame a Wild Flower. So they're stunning editions, but read the first book and I had the ick. And then we have Bookish Box Godly Heathens by H.E. Edgmond, I believe. Stunning edition. It's a naked hardcover, but I just don't really feel like I want to read this book. I have seen reviews, I see what it's about, and I don't think it's for me. I also have from Arcane Society the Mate Finder duology, or at least the first 2 books in the series, which you have Mate Finder and Devil by Leah Stone. Again, beautiful editions, just not my vibe. We also have the Book of Azrael from Bookish Box. Again, I read this, I DNF'd this book, didn't expect it, so it's going to go to a home where someone loves this series. Am I in a new spot? Yes, my battery died on my camera, so I have already had dinner. I've sat around for a little bit just waiting for it to power up. So let's get through the rest of these books because we barely made a dent. So we have To Bleed a Crystal Bloom. This is the Page and Wick edition. Again, I've already told you, I could not get into this book. I'm sorry. I understand that a lot of people love it. Just not my thing. And then the Fairy Loot Romantasy for October was The Coven by Harper L. Woods. I read this and The Cursed. Really loved The Coven. Didn't really like The Cursed. So somebody else can love this book. It's not me. And then Fairy Loot, I think it's like YA or adult, was Sorcery and Small Magics by Maiga Ducey. Anyway, I know that this is a cozy fantasy. We all know on this channel I am not a cozy fantasy reader, so somebody else can love it. I'm so sad to part ways with this, but it is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. Read this, didn't even like it, couldn't get into it. I think Sarah A. Parker is just not an author for me personally, but this has these sprayed edges, and it also is from Harry Hartong, which is in Australia, and it is signed and personalized to Jen. So if you want this, just know that it's personalized to me. We have so many more books. The next one we have is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Sarah Roche. This is the first print run that has the sprayed edges, but I got the beautiful edition from Owlcrate, so I don't need the paperback. And then the Fairy Loot adult was The Gods Below by Andrea Stewart. I just don't think that I'm gonna like this book. I read the synopsis of it and it just doesn't seem like something I would like, so I'm gonna go ahead and just part ways with it and not even try. You really learn a lot whenever you read a lot of romantasy or a lot of fantasy. You start to learn what you like and what you don't like. So, you know, just because I don't like certain types of fantasy doesn't mean that they're bad. So let's just be honest there. None of these books are bad. They are just not for me. I do have a copy of this from Fairy Loot. This is the first print run of The Half King by Melissa Landers, the one that you could get almost in any retail store. We have the probably smut edition of Crossroads by Devney Perry. I don't think that I'm going to be a Devney Perry fan, at least her contemporary romances, because they're all small town, I think, and I'm just not a small town type of reader. We have Redeemed by Lauren Asher. This is from Eternal Embers. This is the one that Larry Reeds had collabed with them on. I got it in one of the mystery boxes that you got like a couple months ago where you could get like 3 paperbacks, mystery paperbacks, and this was one of them. I'm not a Lauren Asher fan, so I'm just going to part ways with it and not even try. Another Larry Reed's collab was The Bully by Sophie Lark. I read this as an ARC because it was being republished, and I'm just, again, not a fan. This was like the second generation, I think, the first book, and I love Brutal Birthright series, but I didn't like this one. I don't know, make it make sense. We have the Bookish box edition of Assistant to the Villain. This one has the slipcase. It's a beautiful edition, but not my vibe. I also have the Fairy Loot edition of The Wren and the Holly Library by K.A. Lind. So this is the first print run edition. I don't need 2 copies. I also have, is this called the Otherworld series? It's the first 2 books by Emma Hamm. I have Heart of the Fae and Veins of Magic. These are from Bookish Box. Beautiful editions and stuff, but after I got them in the mail and I read more about what they were, it's just not my vibe, and that's okay, but someone else can love them. The Page and Wick edition of Sky of Fire by Madeline Carr. This is a beautiful edition of an epic fantasy. I have learned that specific epic fantasies are my jam. Most of them are not. So this one, unfortunately, is not my vibe, and, you know, I just need to clear up space now. I do have the first print run of The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo with the black sprayed edges, but this one also is signed. I don't think that this is going to be something that I'm going to enjoy, so I'm going to just let it go to a better home. We also have the Fairy Loot edition of The Darkness Within Us by Tricia Levenseller. I ended up keeping the editions of The Darkness Within Us and The Shadows Between Us that I got from Barnes & Noble because they're kind of like a matching set, and I think they're beautiful, although I really, really enjoy the inside of this. It's absolutely gorgeous, but you know, I'd rather have matching editions than mismatched, so I'm just gonna part ways. I have Bookish Box Lore of the Wilds by Annalee Sobrania. I kept the Fairy Loot edition of this. I had to sit down and really think about which edition I loved the most, and even though I absolutely adore this hardcover, the Fairy Loot Reverse Dust Jacket won me over. I have the Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. This is the Owl Crate edition, and I don't think that this is going to be something that I am going to enjoy. It is kind of like a historical fiction fantasy, something like that. And it's a World War I inspired book, and I just don't think that that's going to be for me. I have the Bookish Box editions of A Quart of Honey and Ash by Shannon Mayer and Kelly St. Clair. I did read these. I didn't read these. I listened to them on audio. But we have A Quart of Honey and Ash, A Throne of Feathers and Bone, and A Crown of Petals and Ice. I really enjoyed this series, but it wasn't a 5-star series for me. I think that it was just kind of okay. I really don't need these editions because it's not something I'm going to revisit, and I really don't think that I'm going to be recommending them to people because although the fantasy world was great and the storyline was great, the writing fell so flat for me because it was like reading a juvenile fantasy set in like an adult world, and it just didn't work for me. We have the fabled version of A Court This Cruel and Lovely by Stasia Stark. I would love to keep this edition, but we're not going to be printing the rest of the series, and I just don't want one book that is mismatched. We have Bookish Box Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. I had 2 copies of this because they had Lady Fortune as one of them and Orion, and I am getting rid of the Orion cover, sadly. I love it, but I just loved the Lady Fortune one a little bit better. I have the Fairy Loot edition of Sleep Like Death by Kaylin Bayron, something I'm just not gonna read. We have the first print edition of Sanctuary of the Shadow by Aurora Asher. I have the Fairy Loot edition or the Bookish Box edition, one of them, so I don't need 2 copies. We have To Kill a Shadow by Catherine Quinn. This is the first print edition with the purple edges. I read this as an ARC last year before it was released, and I just couldn't fall in love with the story. I feel horrible about that, but it's a beautiful book. I think book 2 is already out or coming out, and I just have no intentions of continuing. I also have the first print run of A Fire in the Sky by Sophie Jordan. It has the blue sprayed edges. I got the Fairy Loot edition of this, so I do not need just a regular edition, so I'm gonna let it go. I did get a 5th copy of Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. This is still in the plastic, and it is from Eternal Embers. It's very, very little, and I think I had gotten this in one of the mini mystery boxes I had gotten, and I was like, why did you send me 15 of these? I have Ballad and Dagger by Daniel Jose Older. This is the Owl Crate edition. It is still in the packaging and has the letter from the author in the back. I got this in, I think I got a box from them from one of their sales because I wanted some items that was in it and I don't want the book. Fairy Loot, I don't think is doing this anymore, but there was a couple times that they put like a extra paperback in the box that you got from time to time. So one of those was An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan. I wish that I could read this. I've never gravitated towards it. It has sat on my shelves for like 2 to 3 years, and I just don't really intend to ever pick it up. When was it published? It was published in 2022. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and say goodbye. I have the Barnes & Noble edition of House of Sky and Breath. This was like my 27th copy of this book, just from a different source. And I do not need this many copies whenever I can just read the bonus chapters online. So I think that is all of special editions, first print runs that have beautiful edges. So we are going to extremely rapid fire the normal edition of books that I am going to be getting rid of for really cheap on Pango. So definitely go pick one of these up if you want them. But I am really not going to explain anything. I'm just going to start holding them up and telling you which ones. Either I have read these and don't care to keep them, or I have never read them and they've sat on my shelf for way too long, or they're my husband's books, and you're gonna notice which ones are my husband's books that he just doesn't need anymore. Okay, so we have A Promise of Peridot by Kate Golden. We also have Haven by Mary Lindsay, which we also have the first book, I think. Let me grab it. Yeah, we have Havoc by Mary Lindsay. If I want to pick this back up, I'm definitely going to be getting them in matching set because I have a hardcover and a paperback. I'm also getting rid of Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. If you watched my wrap up for October, you definitely know why. I will also be getting rid of Dating and Dismemberment by A.L. Brody. This was sent to me from Entangled, and I feel horrible for getting rid of it, but it's just not something I'm going to read at all. And then I'm going to be getting rid of The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. I do have book 1 on my fantasy bingo board. I got the special editions from Bookish Box, so I'm just going to go ahead and start getting rid of these. I'm also going to be getting rid of Fantasy Lover by Sherilyn Kenyon for probably $1. Someone take this off of my hands. I mean, it's definitely been loved and cherished. I do not need to keep it. I'm also getting rid of Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. Accidentally watched Carrie Can Read summary of it whenever she was reading it. Don't need to read it. We have Rise of the Cinder Fae by Whitney Dean. We have 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Match Me If You Can by Tiana Smith. And all of my books are falling over. One moment. We have Dreambound by Dan Frey. I really wanted to read this. Like really wanted to read this. But it's a contemporary fantasy. And I really don't think that's my vibe. But I wanted to read this so bad. I mean, a dad goes into like the underworld or the underbelly of Los Angeles, and he's in a fantastical universe of her favorite books. Who would not want to read that? I don't know. I'm having second thoughts, but it's like all mixed media. It's like recordings and journal entries, and I don't know. This might be saved. If you don't see it on my Pango Books account, either someone already bought it or I'm keeping it. We have Promises and Pomegranates by Savar Miller. This is just a duplicate copy because I have another one coming in the mail. And then we also have Viciously Yours by Jamie Applegate Hunter. I got a copy, I think it was from Fabled last month, and I think it was May's box, so I just don't need a regular copy. And then also You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thau. I picked up the sprayed edged paperback, not even realizing I owned it. So that means you have a book buying problem if that happens. Then we have Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I do want to pause and explain this. I bought this. I wanted to read Brandon Sanderson's world. Whenever I was reading Malice by John Gwynne, which you will hear my thoughts about that in my December wrap up. I realized that epic fantasy may not be for me. I do enjoy some epic fantasy. I love the Bloodgrace series by Vela Roth, and I love other epic fantasies, but John Gwynne, I could not get into. I can't get into Robert Jordan, and I'm so worried that Brandon Sanderson is kind of in the same vein of those. Not necessarily like maybe writing style, but like world and how epic things are, and I just don't want to ruin my thoughts of Brandon Sanderson being the best fantasy writer of our time, so I think I'm just not going to try it all. I then have Text Appeal by Amber Roberts. This looks like a cute little like romance. Never picked it up. I've had it for a couple years. The Infinite Moment of Us by Lauren Miracle. Again, I've owned this for I don't even know how long, and I've never read it. Indigo Ridge by Devney Perry. We've already talked about Devney Perry. I don't think that her contemporary romance are for me, but she is coming out with, I think, a romantasy at the beginning of 2025, and I will definitely be trying that then. I also have Throttled by Lauren Asher. Again, I started her Dreamland Billionaire series. Wasn't for me, and I've just cut my losses. We are down to the final stack. The final stack. I am so excited. We have The Lincoln Conspiracy by Brad Meltzer, and then we also have The First Conspiracy by Brad Meltzer. I'm sure you can see whose books those are. We also have Killing the Nazis by Bill O'Reilly. We have The Queen's Assassin by Melissa Dela Cruz. This one is also signed, I believe, by her. And again, I thought that I was going to read it, but I have found some things out about the author that I just don't think is my reading vibe. And that's okay. Nothing negative about the author itself. Just like the way that she tells stories and stuff. I am also sadly getting rid of my Fallen set, my hardback set. It is time. I love this series. I reread it probably every year, every other year, something like that. I rewatch the terrible movie that came out all the time. I don't know why. It's not a great movie. The acting is poor. The screenwriting is abysmal. But I just love it. It's like Twilight. It's like a guilty pleasure that I don't ever tell anyone about. So I'm going to be getting rid of the whole set. And I think I'm just going to put it on there as a whole set. Because I want them to be gone. I need to get them out of here. We have Angel Time by Anne Rice. Who was I kidding about starting Anne Rice's Whole World? I was kind of insane to think that. And then we also have Catherine of Aragon, The True Queen by Alison Weir. I love Alison Weir, and I love everything that is about the Tudors, but I don't need just one copy out of the whole series because I don't own the rest of them. Then we also have The Dagger and the Flame by Catherine Doyle. I got this in Fairy Loot, I think. It was their book. My stack is gonna fall over. We also have Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This is the only one that I own in the series, and I really don't think that I'm going to continue that series. We also have Mile High by Liz Tom Forday. I loved the first book. I haven't continued the other ones, and I just don't need to keep copies because all of the copies that I have are mismatched, like height and stuff. I don't need that on my shelf. The last two books, I have Wicked Lovely by Melissa Marr. I've had this on my shelf for, I couldn't tell you how long. And now I'm rethinking on getting rid of it. I don't know. This came out in like 2007. Is that what really happened? It did. It came out in 2007. What is this about? Oh, it has fairies? Okay, I'm rethinking this one. I'm going to put it in another pile. The last book is Rasmus the Damned by Anne Rice and Christopher Rice. The Passion of Cleopatra. Listen, there was a time whenever I convinced myself that I'm going to read some of these like best-selling authors throughout the century, and I was like, Anne Rice, I really want to read an Anne Rice book. Why did I buy all these books whenever I haven't even read them? Couldn't even tell you. But those are all of the books that I am unhauling. I hope this video isn't as long as I thought it would be. I tried to go through them rather quickly. I do have some other videos coming soon. I have one for books that I want to read in 2025. And I'm not doing the self-destruct one that like Becca does, because that was kind of my thing that I did at the beginning of this year, and it did not work out very well. I tried to take inspiration from Becca. She's one of my favorite booktubers, but it didn't work for me. So I am compiling some books that are off of my shelves that I want to read in 2025, and I kind of have a mixed bag. I also have another stack of books that's over here that are books that I wanted to unhaul, but I was very hesitant on doing it because I feel like I could like them. So we're going to be doing kind of a new series on here where I'm going to try out some of these books and see which ones I actually am going to keep. And I think I'm going to play a little fun game with it. Every month I'm going to set aside a week. This is me being as positive as I can. I don't know if it's going to be 1 week a month, but I am going to try to make that a series on my channel. And I'm going to give my thoughts on which ones I think that I'm going to keep and which ones I think I'm not going to keep and I'm not going to enjoy, and just see how many I get right on that. But I have so much content coming. We have the end of the year wrap-ups to do. I am getting ready to do my end of the year book tag. We're going to see how things went with that. I have revamped my shelves. I am currently going to be filming a video for my Patreon that we are going to be starting to do stuff in January. I'm so excited for my Patreon because there's going to be a new series that is Patreon exclusive. So you definitely don't want to miss that. Definitely make sure that whenever January 1st comes, or maybe you can now, become my Patreon member. Any tier, you're going to be able to see the videos that are going to be coming out each month. And there are so many other exciting things that I'm going to be doing with my Patreon. I hope that you come along for the ride, but get ready for a lot more content. I'm out of my busy season. I'm going to try to get back into the swing of things, so just bear with me. It might take a little bit since it is the holiday season, and I want to spend time with some family and make some candy with my mom. Maybe I'll do a vlog on that. I hope everyone enjoyed this unhaul, and go check out my Pingo Books account if you want to pick up any of these, and make sure you're following me on there so then you get to know whenever I post any of my new books before my book unhaul videos come out. But I hope you all had a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being patient over the past couple of weeks during my busy time. I've truly, truly appreciated it. But I will see you all in the next video. Bye!